Okay, Erev Tov Kulam. Today, Baruch Hashem, we are continuing in volume 20 of the Tzurba Rabbanon, the Lax Family Edition, the Niyaza Family Volume. We're up to in the Sefer. It's Shir 3, Shir Gimel, Hilchot Balei Chaim b'Shabbat, part 1. Today we're doing it with Fuad Shalima.
Good for David.
Yeah, David has the chickens. You don't know about this. רפואת שלמה of אמא שלום במקרה אמא בת אסתר, וגם רפואת שלמה for דבורה בת תמר, וגם רפואת שלמה אריאל בן רחל, וגם רחל בת רבקה, וגם אלישבע בת בתיה, וגם אביגל בת בתיה. They all should have a רפואת שלמה. Anyone else have what name to add on? And everybody who's sick in Klal Yisrael should have a complete רפואת שלמה בקרוב. Okay, let's get into the sugi over here, Rabotai. Okay, so up until now, we've been pretty much looking at the malachot of Shabbat, and there are some malachot that deal malacha, the constructive, creative work on Shabbat. Right, we're looking at the 39 malachot. Before we get into the malachot related to animals, we have to know that there's something else included besides the malacha of animals when it comes to Shabbat. Okay? And it starts off based on the 10 commandments. Here we have, on our first source, we have a pasuk in Shemot, in the 10 commandments, that talks about Shabbat. And it says, source number 1, V'yom ha'shevi'i, Shabbat la'Hashem Elokecha. What does it say? Lo ta'aseh chol melacha. You can't make any melacha. Not you, not your son, not your daughter, not your slave, not your maidservant, and not your v'mtecha, and not your animal.
Yeah, but the animal is
uv'himtecha also cannot do work on Shabbat. Okay. Well, I think the way the pasuk is setting it up is it's all yours, right? Ato, vincho, v'techa, abdecha, v'ametecha, v'himtecha. That everything belongs to you. V'gerecha is now another individual in society not related to you. V'gerecha asher be'sharecha. That's where you look at the pasuk. Okay, so it says uv'himtecha, your animal can't do work. Now, in Sefer Devarim, where we review the 10 commandments, it says, V'yom ha'shevi'i Shabbat Hashem Elokecha lo ta'aseh chol milocha. Ato v'incho v'techa v'avdecha v'ametecha v'shorecha v'chamorecha v'chol behimtecha. Okay, not your ox, not your donkey, not any animal. V'gerecha asher b'sharecha. Why can't you do work with any of them? Lema'an yanuach avdecha v'ametecha kamocha. So that they should rest, just like you. First, ha'ara, very interesting, comes out of this is as follows. Listen to this. What would be if I put my animal to work? What isser is it? It's a doraita, right? It says it right here. The Torah says you cannot make your animal work. If I tell a guy to do something, what isser is that? It's the Rabbanan. Imagine telling a guy to do something is a derabanan. Whereas telling your animal to do something, you're gonna be over the oraita. So it's a lot stronger.
Yeah, but the animal is yours and the guy is not yours.
Okay, but still, it's very interesting. Okay. You tell the animal to do some malachas for you. You train him to clap him and he does stuff. It's gonna do a malacha for you. The oraita.
What if you have a chicken and you make eggs?
That's not malacha. That's natural part of the egg. The
thing. The end of the pasuk in Dvarim says Leman Yanuach Avdecha V'Amatecha Kamocha. Doesn't nothing about the shor v'chamor.
We're gonna apply it to the animal regardless.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, which animal is this? Pashit, the pasuk seems to be saying your animal, v'imtecha. And perhaps v'shorecha v'chamorecha means domesticated animals, ones that were with you. However, the Gemara in Bava Kama already tells us that it's not entirely true. Echad shor ve'echad kol behema il Shabbat v'chein haya ve'of keyotze behen. Any animal, undomesticated wild animals, or even birds, they're all subject to this issue of making them work.
Only if they're under your.
Even if they're not under yours.
What?
Not necessarily.
Well,
everything.
You can tell.
We're gonna come out that there's two parts to it. There's gonna be an asay and a loisa asay. Okay, so perhaps the asay is your animal, but the lotas is when you work is actually every animal. The halacha is every animal, by the way, not just your animal. The halacha is passing any animal. You can't make any animal work for you, even if it doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, even so much if it still belongs to a goy, and you have it with you, you rented it, whatever it is, you can't make it work for you. It'd be awesome. All right, let's go through this again. All right, now starts a Gemara in Masechet Shabbat. What happens if the animal did do work for me? What am I hayav? What's my punishment, so to speak? What am I obligated to pay? What am I obligated to get punished with? Do I bring a korban? Do I not bring a korban?
Depends.
What is the story if I actually made an animal work for me on Shabbat? Okay, so look inside the Gemara in page 122, source number 4.
An animal is also the same as renting your cars.
We'll see. Yeah, your Kalim can work on Shabbat. Your animal can't work.
What if you tell your family member to do something?
What do you mean?
You tell your son to do something.
Okay, let's go to the animal first. All right.
It depends if the ben is 13 or is less
right.
than 13.
Ein sheach le'avera. What are we saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Amar Rami Bar Chama. Ha mechamer achar behemto b'Shabbat. What does mechamer mean?
Going after.
He leads him. Okay, he's leading the animal to do something on Shabbat. Usually, you can lead an animal by making sounds to him. All right, and tell him go right, go left. He understands. He already works with you in the field, so he knows how to listen to you. So you're leading him on Shabbat to do a malacha, to do some sort of work. Okay, so if I do this, what is the punishment?
Depends.
So says Rabbi Rahama, bishogeg. If he did it by accident, right, inadvertently, hayab hatat. He has to bring a hatat. Bimezid, hayab skila. If he did it on purpose, he's hayab skila. My tama, says the Gemara, what would be the reason? Samarabba damakra. Lo taseh chomelacha ata ubhimtecha. Behimto dumya dide. Mahu bishogeg hayab hatat bimezid hayab skila. So says Rabba says what? Just as if you would have done it, you would have got punished. Shogeg chatat mezid skila. Same thing if your animal did it, inadvertently you would bring a hatat to lead, usually leading by voice.
No. I think if the
to do a work, leading him by voice to do something.
If the hamor has masta on it, and you and the hamor goes after you, so you are leading it. This kind of avodah.
So do if I lead him by voice to plow the ground, or I lead him on voice to do kaitzer, whatever it is. Well, there's many different ways I can make him to lead, but with my voice.
Plowing the ground, it's you know what you're doing. You know you're doing something.
Okay, it's I forgot about Shabbos. What? That's simple. Shaggy.
Get in trouble.
I forgot. What? Never forgot on Shabbat.
You drank a lot.
So the man has to bring it.
You walked up and you think
okay.
It's Sunday.
So let's let it through. So the question was, I made my animal do work. What punishment do I get? So the rabbi says, whatever you would have gotten if you would have done it, you have to do the same thing for your animal. So it's not that the animal brings the hatat, it's not that the animal gets skila. Rather, the person brings the hatat, the one who led him, and the person would get skila for doing avodah with his behema on Shabbat. So Tzion is not very happy with this idea. So you're not the only one. I'm a rabbi. Shtei tshuvot b'davar. What are you guys talking about? There's two rebuttals to this. Hadad dichtiv Torah achat yelachem la'oseh bishgaga v'hanev asher ta'aseh b'yad ramah. There's a pasuk. When it comes to avodah zarah, it says over there how you have to do it. Torah ahat yelachem. All the Torah has to be the same for you. Huksha kol Torah kula la'avodah zarah. All of it has to be compared to avodah zarah. Now what? To avodah zarah. Ma avodah zarah. De'avid ma'aseh begufeh. You have to actually do the ma'aseh to be hayaf for it. If you didn't do it, someone else bow down, you're not going to be hayaf. You have to actually do it. The pasuk says le'oseh, to do it. So ma'avodah zeh David ma'aseh begufeh. Hachinami ad David ma'aseh begufeh. Unless you did it in your own self, why are you being punished? Meaning, why should I get skila if I didn't actually do the action of the melacha? I let it, but I didn't do it. Well, voice is not action. The animal did it. How can I pay the price for the animal?
Animal is an animal, a person is a person.
Right.
So if the animal does what you said the animal to do, so it means you're doing it.
Right, that's what Rava wants to say. But Rava says no. Rava says no. In order to be hayav, you have to do it yourself, always. You have to do it.
So why the Torah say you are a command of your animal? If the animal does by itself, let the animal get punished.
Okay, so let's stay a little further. Okay, he skips a little bit here. He goes on to Kufnan Dal on page 123. Okay, and let's take a look. Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Hamechamer achar behemto b'Shabbat patur mikilum. He is patur entirely. If you make your animal, you let him to do something on Shabbat, even though it's asur, you're patur from everything.
Chamer usually is you going after your behemah.
What do you mean?
Chamer is you going, the behemah goes and you're going together.
You're leading him. You're leading him. Mehamer means you're leading him by voice. That's what it means. In the Gemara, when it says mehamer, that's what it means. Leading by voice.
But exactly, but it's not plowing. It's not plowing. Plowing is avodah. You are doing avodah.
You have a donkey, you put load on.
Not necessarily. Exactly. That's what I said. Yeah.
You make him you make him move with some sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yes. You're making him do a malacha by using your voice. That's mechaber. Okay? Now, so what happens over here? Okay. So says Rabbi Yochanan as follows. He's part of Mikilum. He's part of everything. Bishoygeg lemichayiv chatat. The hukshakot kula avodah zarah. You can't be chayiv chatat because it's all compared to avodah zarah. And for avodah zarah to bring a chatat, you have to have done it yourself. Okay? So if you're not doing it yourself, you can't be chayiv chatat. When it comes to doing it on purpose, if you did it and you knew it was Shabbat and you were still doing it, lo mechayev. Why? Ditran hamechalel Shabbat bedavar shechayevin ashkigato hatat v'al zedono skila. Ha'en hayevin ashkigato hatat en hayevin al zedono skila. The only time you can be hayav skila, death penalty, if you did something on purpose, that if you did it inadvertently, you'd be hayav hatat. But since you can't be hayav hatat because hatat is hukshet to avodah zarah, which means that you have to actually have done it. And since you didn't actually do it, you cannot be hayav hatat. And since there's no hatat when you're shogeg, there's no skila when you're mezid. So the guy who makes his animal do something on Shabbat, no skila, no hatat, nothing. Further, belav nami bo mechayev. He doesn't get makot either. No makot either. Why no makot? It says, lo taseh melacha with your behim techa. So why no melacha? Why no makot?
That's what he said now.
Huh?
That's what they say after.
Belav nami lo mechayev. The hava le'lav shinitan la'azharat mitat bedin. Okay? B'chol lav shinitan la'azharat mitat bedin ein lokin alav. We have a principle that if the azhara, the warning in the pasuk, can lead to a death penalty, then for that, you never give makot for it. If it can lead to the death penalty, because it's compared, makot, remember, is compared in the Torah, it talks about giving the arba makot, and then it starts talking about muzzling, all right? And by that you can never lead to a death penalty. So makot can only be when there's no death penalty. So if there's death penalty that could be there, right? And the person does the avera in the same pasuk as Zahara, so he can get mitat bedin.
But not the
Right, but that pasuk is also talking about him, and since that pasuk the Zahara can lead to mitat bedin, so therefore then that pasuk can never be used to give makot. So he can't bring a hatat. Why? No hatat, because it's compared to avodah zarah, and you have to do a maaseh, you have to do a work, you have to do something. He didn't do anything. No hatat, no skila, because in order to get skila, if you did it on purpose, you have to have a hatat. And there's no makot because it's a pasuk that has a warning for a death penalty. And if the pasuk is for a death penalty, there's no makot in such a case. Further, now says the Gemara further. Neither according to that opinion, that lokin, even if it's azara mitat bedin, you still give makot. No. B'chtov rachmana lo ta'aseh melacha ubhemtecha. Ata lamali. Why does it say ata? You. Who nihud mechayev. The pasuk could have said it without the word ata. And the fact that it said the word ata, right? Ata ovincha. Why do you say ata? Why do you say ata? Ata, you are the one who can get the punishment, and not for your animal. So it comes out as follows. Comes out from right now what we learned in the Gemara is that the isur of working your animal on Shabbat is an isur d'oraita. But there is no hatat, no skila, and no makot. That's what came out. The person put a load on his animal, and then he was mehamer. He drove him, led him somewhere, and he was doing this malacha. No hatat, no skila, no makot. Okay, this is where we're holding at this point.
What kind of melacha?
It's not an avmelacha.
Yeah.
It's not a melacha. Mechamer is not a melacha. It's not on the 39 list. What is it? It's the fact that when the animal does it, it's also a malacha. Do you understand what I said or not? The Ramban deals with this question of Reb Pinchas, and the Ramban says as follows: leading a loaded animal is not a new type of malacha. Rather, it teaches just as a person is liable for the malacha of hotza'ah, so too, if his animal performs it, he also is over that malacha. The person, but not the person, because he didn't do it with an action. He can't be punished, but he's over the malacha. So here you have being over the malacha of hotzah, taking out a burden or something that's not supposed to be carrying, right? And it's a malacha, but he's not hayav hatat skila or makot because his animal is doing it. That's exactly what it is. Okay? That's the halacha. Now, let's move on further. Let's take a look at the Rambam. Now we're in source number 5. Okay, what is he saying? Asur, and this is very, very important right now. Pay attention. Asur lohitzim asal behem b'Shabbos shenemar. What does he use? Lemanya nuach. Lemanya nuach. Sharecha v'chamorecha. Okay. What does lemanya nuach mean? In order for them to rest. Okay? The pasuk, it's not saying don't do the malacha. That's not the pasuk he's using. He's saying, Lemani nu shorchamecha. Echad shor v'chamor v'echad kol behema chai v'oif. V'mehoitzi al behema. Right? And if you want carry an animal, aval b'shum mitzvah al shevitata, ain't a loika. He's not like a lefi she'isuro bo michlal aseh. Because it's an aseh. It's not a lota aseh, says the Rambam.
Right.
The Rambam says the malacha, the issur of using your animals is based on the pasuk leman yenuach shorecha v'chamorecha.
It's only about the animal, but about.
Well, where is this? Where is this pasuk? Is in Mishpatim, right?
The person himself.
This
has
pasuk
a
is in
different
Mishpatim.
pasuk. No, this is in the Dvarim.
He says no. He says this is 23:12. Can we take out Shemot 23:12? I think it's Mishpatim, right? You have the Chumash there?
But I'm saying over here for the animal.
I just pay attention to the Rambam because it's very, very important. No, that's the other. But he's here. Look in the Rambam over here. One second. Let's take a look. Shmois 23:12. Really? No. It's Mishpat. 21 already started Mishpat. 23:12. And here we go. Sheish yomim tasim asecho. Yom shivit tishbot leman yanua shorecha v'chamorecha minafesh benamatecha v'hagir. So says the Rambam, the pasuk that tells you can't work your animal is this pasuk asay leman yanua shorecha v'chamorecha. Okay, and if it's an asay, there's no makot.
But I'm saying for the human being, for our people, there is a different pasuk.
Right.
By law.
Right.
Not that.
So if he let him and he made him do a malacha of Haitzah, it's potter. Now says the Rambam, hold on a second. By loy lav mifurish b'Torah, is there not a lav? Is there not a loy ta'aseh? Oh, that's the Rambam's question. By loy lav mifurish b'Torah shenemar loy ta'aseh kum malacha ato vincha v'techa v'avdecha v'amatecha v'imtecha.
But in the end,
so there is a lav.
But then it's a leman yanuach shochav hamhal. So it's like it's more.
Oh, what happens? Lav shnitan lahazarat mitat betin. Since it's a azhara of that pasuk can lead to mitat betin. If the guy did it, right, you can get death penalty, and if it leads bad penalty, ve'en lokin alav. You don't give makot for it, right? So says the Rambam, if that was the lav, if that was the loy ta'aseh, you still can't give makot on it because it's an azara that leads to mitat bedin. Okay, lehalocha. How do we view this case? Someone who leads an animal to do a malacha on Shabbat, is it an aseh? Is it a loy ta'aseh? What exactly is it? And what's some ramifications of that? Okay. So let's take a look outside of the Tzurba for a moment. I'm here in the Hebrew Yalkut Yosef on Shabbat Chelik Aleph. So with animals. Let's take a look. So he writes over here. I'm reading the Yalkut Yosef Hebrew edition of Shabbat Chelik Rishon. I'm not sure which year this is because in the Yalkut Yosef is many different. So this is Tafshin Ayin Aleph. So I'm on page Kuf Tzadik Vav, and he says as follows: Yesh Oimrim. Sheyesh b'shvitat behemta gam lav deloy ta'aseh kol malacha ato v'hemtecha. There are those who say there is a loy ta'aseh. Okay. V'yesh cholkim v'ayimim she'em b'zeh ele isser aseh shelaman yenuach. Okay. Shelaman yenuach, that's the Rambam and Tosfot. And who says there is a loy ta'aseh? That's Rashi. He brings down the Rashi and the Ran. They both hold there's a loy ta'aseh there also. Of an ein boy lav. The lo ta'aseh kol melacha, but ein bo lav the lo ta'aseh kol melacha. So some hold like that. There is no lav ta'aseh kol melacha, and some say that they do. What would be one practical difference if it's a lav, if it's only an aseh? So here comes a very interesting idea. I think many of us have heard this, but let's take a look. So now I'm on Kuf Pei Vav in Kuf Pei Ves, Kuf Pei Vet, and the Yalkut Yosef. Now listen to this one. And you can explain to me. Yesh oimrim shegam ha'isha chayevet b'mitzvat shvitat behemta. That a woman also has to make her animal rest.
Why not?
Why? Why should women also be included? You said why not? I'm going to tell you why it should be included. Okay, what's remember, women are potter from what type of mitzvah? Mitzvah shazman grama. Shabbat is a mitzvah of zman grama. It comes once a week. It's based on time. So why is a woman keeping Shabbat? Oh, because the other says shamor ta Shabbat, right? Shamor and zachor. So whoever is involved in shamor, right? Don't break this. Loy ta'aseh, the woman has to do, right? So since she has to be involved with the loy ta'aseh, don't break Shabbat. So therefore, she also has to do zchira of Shabbat. The real question is, how far does schira of Shabbat go? Remembrance of Shabbat go? Okay, listen to this. V'yesh armim she'en chiyuv al isha el b'mitzvah zechira b'chnisat haShabbat u'v'yetziatah. The only thing the woman has to do asay on Shabbat is Kiddush and Havdalah. She has no other asays of Shabbat. Only Kiddush and Havdalah. Because Chira, how do you remember Shabbat? Is through Kiddush and Havdalah. But still, you're remembering Shabbat coming out. It's Kiddush and Havdalah. The question is Havdalah if she has. There is talk about that. Just for argument's sake, right now, the Chira is about Kiddush and Havdalah. But not the other mitzvahs say of Shabbat. Because she's never chayiv in a mitzvah say she's man groma.
What is bitcha? Bitcha is not a woman. What is bitcha?
His daughter that's under his rishus.
So the daughter, one day she's going to be a woman, no?
Okay, let's play it through. Okay, we'll play it through. Right, the Suda could be part of the Chira. Can be part of the Chira of Shabbat, remembering Shabbat through oinig of the food. Okay, this way it comes out. Does the woman have a mitzvah asay of doing stuff for Shabbat or not? It's a machloket. How far is the asay for the woman on Shabbat? We all agree she's chayim with the schira of remembering Shabbat. The zachar v'shamar, shamar v'zachar. But does that mean all the asays of Shabbat? So there are some poskim who say no, not all the asays of Shabbat. Now what happens? If she's not chayav in all the asays, what's with the behema? What do the Rambam say? Why is it also to use the behema on Shabbat? Because of an asay. And if it's an asay, and the woman is parted from all other asays except zechira of Shabbat, then the woman can technically work her animals on Shabbat. She can work her animals on Shabbat because she's only mechuyev in the loita asays of Shabbat and the asays of zechira, and the animal doing work is not an asay of zechira, and therefore she would be allowed to use the animal. That's only if you hold two things: that the woman's asay is only zechira, and that the isra of using the animal is only an asay. Okay, but that's not the way. But there are opinions that the isra of using the animal is also a loita asay. And there's also an opinion that the woman's asay is zechira is not just on zechira, but rather all the asays of Shabbat. So therefore, it writes, "Shegam ma'isha chayev mitzvah shevitas behema." Okay, that's the way the halacha is brought down. He writes, "Ve'ik kesvara rishona shegam anoshim and tzuvas al mitzvah sasei shevitas behema." And she shouldn't put any masui on it. And also lohitzia gam the Carmelis v'chol shekem rishus sarabim. Of course, any of these places don't have an erev. She cannot take out the animal with something on it or load it or make it do some work. So it comes out a very interesting ramification. If you say it's only an asay or a loisa asay, how do you view this issur over here? Okay, that's a little bit outside the Tzurba, a little bit of an insight over there. Okay, now let's move on to source number 6. This is from the Mechilta. The Mechilta brings an interesting svara over here. He says, when we said you have to rest your animal on Shabbat, how far do you have to go? Meaning, do I have to make sure the animal does nothing? Right? Sometimes the animal, if you leave him outside in the field by himself, he'll start to do kotzer on his own. He'll start to pick up things, detach grass, detach fruits or vegetables from the ground. So do I have to stop him from doing that? Right. Do I have to actually stop him from doing things that will be considered melacha? So says the Mechilta, it says resting to establish that the animal may pluck from the ground and eat.
That's the resting of the behemoth.
Oh, very good.
Playing with.
Because if you stop him, en zaniach ilatzar. If you're going to stop him from being an animal, then you're not letting him rest. You're making him in distress. So meaning if the animal on his own is doing things, that is restful for him, then you don't have to stop him, says the Mechilta. Interestingly enough, I didn't write down the page over here, but I saw he brought down what happens if you see the animal have a package on him and he's starting to walk out into an area he shouldn't be. Hey, right over here. I feel him yesh alei masa. Ain't tzarich lemona. You don't have to stop him. Because if the animal is doing it on his own, the Yisrael is not getting any hana, so you don't have to stop him. That's what he writes in the Alka Joseph. The yesh cholkim, the oimrim, you have to stop him. And he writes with the dina, ein lahakav v'zen lechatchila. You shouldn't be makel on this. If you see your animal about to go out with a burden and walk in a place where there's no erev, and it's going to be doing hotza'ah, you should stop. So he brings down lahalacha over here. I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to. Right, it might be an issue of merit. It might be that having a masa on him all the time, even the animal doesn't like a burden on him. An animal likes kaiser, so that for dashing the fruit, that's his resting. But going out with the burden, that's not resting for him. That's not resting. Perhaps maybe that's a chiluk also. I didn't get a chance to look through it further, but that's the Mechilton, that's the Alka Joseph on this. Okay, now we've been looking this whole time what the animal can't do is ta'aseh, lo ta'aseh. Now we come to a Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah that says, Adam, a person, Tzurba, he's commanded al shvitat behemto b'Shabbat, to let his animal rest on Shabbat. Okay, so there's a commandment to let your animal rest on Shabbat. Your animal, one that you own. Let him rest on Shabbat, right? Don't make him do laps. I don't know. Don't make him work on Shabbat. No, I don't know. We didn't get the pets yet. Let's figure this out first. Now, the question is as follows. Says the Or Zarua, if a guy rented an animal from a goy, rented an ox, and he's doing mechamer on Shabbat, says Rabbeinu Ephraim, he's chayav chatat. He has to bring a sin offering. Now, first of all, says the Or Zarua, it says it doesn't appear correct to me. He says, but you know what? Rabbeinu Ephraim said it. Now, what's the Or Zarua's reasoning? He's saying it's not my animal. It's the guy's animal. The guy's animal is doing work. Okay, but renting is not a complete kinyan. I didn't completely acquire it. It's not mine. And he's doing work. So why should I be any problem at all with it? Take a look at the Ran. In the Ran, in the next source, and Ran and other Rishonim, what did they say? Shvitat behemto does not apply to the case of animal that one has sold to a non-Jew. Right? If a Jew sold his animal to a non-Jew, he can use this. It's not his anymore. Nevertheless, there's a prohibition here due to mechamer. Since the animal hears his voice and moves because of him, there's no difference in hefresh behem toy levehemtat chavero. She'isser zeh hu atzmoi oiseh. What he said here? Says the Ran. Looks like he, he says over here that it seems like he sold it. So the guy, this is the case. If I understand the case of the Ran, is that I had an animal, right? I, the Jew, had an animal, and I sold to the guy. Okay, now it belongs by the guy. And on Shabbat, if I want to tell my former animal to do something for the guy, can I do that? He's saying you can't. Why? Because when you're doing it, you're the one causing it. So it comes out from the Ran, there's two things going on here. There's shvitat behemto. There's resting your animals on Shabbat. That's your asay of making sure they have a rest. And then there's the second component, not making them do work. Right? Well, now that will make sense with the Gemara earlier. You can't put to work a chayav and oif. Who has a chayav and oif at home? I don't know. Somehow you can make them to do work for you. You can't do that. Why not? Because there's an isser of making any animal work for you. There's a mitzvah of shvitat behemto, and there's an isser of making an animal work. That's what it seems to come out from the Ran. And take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. Take a Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah spells it out. Mishnah Berurah spells it out. Source number 10, page 126. Said Mishnah Berurah, "Va'afilu im ein b'habehema shelo tzarich lizaher bekach the isur mechamer shayich afilu b'vimtat achirim." The isur of mechamer of leading an animal to do work applies even by other people's animals. You can't make other people's animals do work for you. The ikatarti mechamer the shvitat behemto. So there's two components, says the Mishnah Berurah. There's the component of making an animal work, and there's the component of resting your animal on Shabbat. Okay, so two components over here. Just want to take a look briefly in the Yalkut Yosef. Okay. Here he writes, Schiros loy kanya, right? Loy kanya. If a person rents an animal, it's not considered acquiring it. It's not yours. Right. Okay? Even though it doesn't belong to you, right? Renting an animal from a guy, it's not your animal, you still can't make it work on Shabbat.
Right now, you are in charge.
Yeah.
That's why.
Because if you want to say, like we're saying over here, there's an issue of mechamer, an issue of making it work, right? Doesn't matter which animal it is, whose animal it is. You can't make it work for you. And there's another problem here of resting the animal on Shabbat. Two different sides of the coin. Okay, here we go. Source number 11. Beautiful. Right on the right time you asked the question. Now comes out with the implications of this. So let's start. Okay. What are some of the halachot? Among the other halachot of resting one's animal, what do you have to do? You have to be careful that the animal does not go into the Shut Rabim or a carmelit while it's carrying a burden, a masa. Okay? So some of us in this area have dogs. Right? Now, Baruch Hashem, we have an Erev in the community. Say the Erev is down. All right? And now your dog wants to go out. You have to be careful. What can the dog go out with? Or if you go to a community where there is no Erev, you go on vacation or something like that, and of course you take your dog along, right? So, you have to be careful. What's considered a burden? What's considered a burden? So he says over here, any item which is not designed to protect the body of the animal to the normal extent required. Just like by a human, you can walk out with clothing on Shabbat, but you can't walk out with things that are not considered clothing or appropriate stuff if you didn't have an Erev, right? So same thing. But any item which is designed to protect the body of the animal, such as clothing, right? Sometimes when it gets cold outside, they get a doggy sweater, right? They get a doggy sweater, they get a doggy scarf. These type of things are regular items for the animal that is appropriate for the animal, and he'll be able to walk outside without an Erev with those stuff, the animal. Otherwise, if you just have some sort of decoration on him, right, and that's considered a burden, he's not allowed to walk out with that. Oh, yeah, it's going to be a problem. A dog collar and a dog tag. He has an identification on a tag.
But let's say
or something like that.
Do I have a dog with the air tag on the
It's like embedded in the skin?
No, it's on the
It's like attached to the collar.
Yeah.
That's going to be a problem if there's no Erev.
No, that's what there is.
If there's an Erev?
Yeah.
No problem. Okay. Protection to the normal extent means protection that benefits the animal. Protecting from the cold, other distress, protecting from running away, getting lost. But protecting the animal from causing damage is not included. So you can't put a muzzle on. There's no Erev, you can't put a muzzle on the animal. It's considered a masa. Okay, furthermore, now what about a leash? Okay. He just say two things here. One of them, I don't know why it is. Maybe someone can tell me. I wasn't able to figure it out or look it up, but maybe you'll tell me. Okay, so he says as follows. Where it's necessary to tie a leash around the neck of an animal, taking the Shut Rabim with this leash is permitted, provided that the end does not protrude a tefach or more out of the hand of the person leading it, as then he'll be carrying it himself. So what does it mean? When you have a leash, the part that you hold, there's no Erev again, no Erev, and you got to walk your animal. The leash, the part that's coming out over here should not be it shouldn't be too long. Okay, shouldn't protrude a tefach out because then you're carrying this part, and there's no air. You can't carry, but you're allowed to hold the leash to protect the animal, right? So you have to make sure that it doesn't protrude. So here's the animal's over here. Right? Here's the collar, okay, and I'm holding the leash from over here. It can't be protruding a tefach out from over here because that would be you'll be carrying that part that's sticking out.
What if I didn't have?
Because for the animal, it's needed for the animal. It's part of the animal's clothing. It's part of the. It's not a masa. It's part of what the animal needs for protection.
Well, how long? What's the longest that the leash can be?
As long as you need to hold it in a way that it's not protruding out. It's not coming out from the other side.
Don't hold it from the middle.
Right? A little bit can come out, but it shouldn't be too long.
Hold it from the not from the middle.
Right.
From the middle.
Then that part that's hanging out, you're carrying that part. Okay? The other part's connected to the animal. It's part of the animal, so it's not considered carrying. Okay? Now, then he writes, and this part I didn't understand, but maybe someone could enlighten me. And again, a lot of these halachot when it comes to animals, for me, I'll tell you very true, it's very new to me. I didn't take care of animals growing up. The animals never was an issue on Shabbat. Nothing to do with me. Me and animals, we were nothing to do with each other. So now that we're going into it in depth, you have to start understanding stuff that you didn't understand before. But Baruch Hashem, in this community, I see a lot of people with a lot of religious people with pets. So it's people have houses, they have room, they have space. So you live in Regal Park, you're not going to be able to. You got to take care of your own kids. You don't have a place for an extra mouth.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see over here. So you should also be particular to ensure the part of the leash with which he leads the animal that hangs between his hand and the neck of the animal does not come within a tefach of the ground. Why would that be? You can't have it a tefach to the ground. Yeah.
The leash will be always under stress, always under the pressure.
Mm.
Cannot be loose.
If it's loose,
this is the problem.
it's considered carrying.
But the bone is tight, okay.
So if it's within the tefach of the ground, then it's like you're carrying it. Right.
You're holding it, but the leash is loose, like a very.
I'm not allowed to do that.
You hear that, everybody say? So you have to hold it in a way that it's not loose and it's not hanging down.
Hold it up like this.
You have to hold it up.
Have to walk
Because
like
if you're letting it loose and it's hanging, then that's carrying. Good shot. Very good.
Luckily, I have a.
2 feet away, something 10 feet away.
So that's why this one is like a
Yeah, I have that
reversible thing.
The retractable.
Yeah, that's why.
That'd be
but the
motion.
problem with my dog, he likes chewing on it, and
Okay,
he's
so
Yeah.
can they tie it around the arm if it's too big, the leash? Like tie it around and have it
That
more
can be-
firm that way?
Yeah, that can be in the solution, yeah.
It's not considered like it's protruding around
Protruding if it's carrying. Protruding means it's sticking out.
when it's
If it's around your
like
hand,
hanging. When
Then
it's
that's
hanging.
hanging is the issue.
Okay,
If it's
got it.
protruding around your hand, I don't think that's an issue. Okay, fine. So that is okay. Now another one. Take a look at number 9, Tet, over there on page 127. So we're still in the middle of source 11. Okay, and over here he writes an identification tag that hangs from the collar of the animal is not considered protection of the animal. It's not considered its clothing. It's not meant. It's not a regular protection of the animal. You cannot go out with it in a place where there's no erev. Therefore, dog owners must be careful not to take the dogs to a place where there's no erev with a tag on their necks, such as the disc provided by the licensing authority, which proves the tax has been paid. I don't know what this is about. However, an identification tag that is fixed to the body of the animal. But an identification is in the body of the animal, such as a nail stuck in the ear with an identification number. Another detail now, this is not included since it cannot be removed. It is therefore permitted to allow them to go out with it, even to the Shut Rabim. So it depends. If it's embedded in the animal, then you could take it out, not a problem. If it's just hanging on the animal, right? Then
It's not dangling that.
sometimes they put like a thing in the ear, right? I know them
Right here.
in the labs when they take care of the animals, they tag them in the ear, in the leg, or something like that, right? So that's like an embedded in the animal, from what I'm understanding. But if you stop and have a collar with the tag on it, my name is whatever his name is, right? And he's walking around with that, and there's no eruv, you're not going to be able to take out the animal like that. You take off that collar. You're going to take off that collar.
Get another color.
Yeah. You have to get one that's not considered carrying. Okay, fine. That's some of the halachot that is practical. I want to take a look 1 minute outside of the Tzurba and the Hilchot Yalkut Yosef English edition. And here we're going to look on page 88 and volume number 1. Going back to volume number 1. We thought we'd come back to this book. Okay. Here we are. Let's take a look what he says over here. Page 88. All right. Right. So the prohibition of Shvitat Behemto. You have to be careful. You're not taking out a burden on the animal. Oh, here's an interesting halakha. Here we go. Listen to this one. You ready? There's no Erev. It's a summer afternoon, Friday afternoon. I took in Shabbat early. Can my animal go out before it's Shabbat, real Shabbat, but after I took Shabbat in? Can he go out with a burden on him?
But the animal goes with you.
I took Shabbat in.
The animal goes with you.
The animal goes with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's is maskim. Yeah.
Another Jew didn't accept Shabbat yet.
Right. Okay, so he writes here in the halacha, if a Jew accepts the sanctity of Shabbat upon himself before sunset, adding time for prior to Shabbat, he must stop his livestock from any acts of malacha from that time on. The obligation to stop it out from acts of malacha is part of its owner's observance of Shabbat. So if you're the owner of that animal, the animal takes Shabbat when you take Shabbat. Okay? So that's halakha, important halakha to know. Right. Family members don't have to take Shabbat when you take Shabbat. Yeah, they can take whenever they want.
They are people by themselves.
Right? They have their own das, right? Yeah, your animal is yours. Okay. So let's say that someone's child owns the animal. Right? So I guess when the child takes in a gadol enough, it's about bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah. So
like my parents gave me the dog.
yeah, so if your father took in Shabbat and you didn't yet, because you still have time, and the dog is with you. The dog is with you. When you take in Shabbat, your dog is taking Shabbat. Okay. We talked about this one already. Okay, fine. Very good. That's what we wanted to get out of here. All right, let's move on to the next idea over here that's brought down. We're on source number 12 on page 127. This is now coming from a Sechet Beitzah, Sechet Be'ah. Taf Lamed Vav Amud Bet. Ve'elu hein mishum shvut. Now we come to a shvut, a derabanan by animals. Which is v'lo rochvin agabe behema. You're not allowed to ride on top of an animal on Shabbat. No horseback riding on Shabbat. No camelback riding on Shabbat. You can't go on an animal on Shabbat. Now, why is this? Says the Gemara. Gezerah Shema Yachtoch. He's going to rip out the Zmar. He's going to take something out of the ground. Why would he take something out of the ground? He wants to lead the animal. Let's say hit him, tell him to go left, go right, go faster, go slower. So he might not have a stick with him or a leash with him, or what was that called? The thing they hit with?
No, but wouldn't you
What's that called?
Why would you take out
The
your
whip. He doesn't have the whip with him.
Why would you?
So he'll rip something from the ground and use it. Because of that, you're not allowed to ride your animal.
Why would you
They're not allowed to ride your animal.
forget the whip?
Yeah. Good question. Why didn't forget it? But he forgot it. I don't know. I want to read to you before. Okay, let's read the Shulchan Aruch. Read the Shulchan Aruch, and then we'll look at the Yalkut Yosef.
They say I wouldn't be able to take my scooter.
What do you mean your scooter? Talking about an animal here. What scooter? You have a animal called Scooter?
Yeah.
Shulchan Aruch, source 13. Ein roichvin agabe behema. You cannot ride on an animal, and you may not hang on it. Va'afilu b'tzada asur leishtamesh. You're not allowed to even use the side of an animal. You're not allowed to lean on the animal.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to lean on the animal.
Exactly.
What faint on my animal? And he starts
Fainting is fainting. But the side of the sides, that it's like a tree. It's like a tree. Tzadid tzadadin, right? Okay, so you're only allowed to use the side of the animal. You can't lean on the animal. If something's on the animal, like a saddle, right? You can't put a saddle on. But if the saddle's there and it has like a pocket, you can use that pocket. You just can't put the saddle on it in the first place. You put something hanging over. Now, says the Ramah, Now you're not allowed to even sit on a carriage driven by a guy on Shabbat, since you end up using the animal. And also, you might come to detach a branch to hit the animal. So if it has a wagon attached to the animal, you're not allowed to sit in the wagon. You're not allowed to get your hayride on Shabbat. You wouldn't be permissible. Right, let's take a look in the Yalkut Joseph. I want to see how far this Gezerah goes. Right, so he says it's a shvut. Gezerah, maybe you pull out something from the ground to hit it with. Look what he says here. You can't sit on a behemoth on Shabbat. Right? He writes, Afilu b'midbar. Even if you're in the desert, okay, and there's nothing growing there.
Not free.
There's nothing to pull out of the ground. Still, the Gezerah is applicable. And you cannot ride an animal. Even though the reason of the Gezerah might come pull out something in the ground, even if there's nothing there, still the Gezerah is there. And therefore, you're not allowed to ride an animal in every place.
You also like to work for the animal.
Could be, yeah, okay. And then he writes, you can't even place an infant on the animal's back for fun. You don't put a child on it for fun. Can't do that on Shabbat. You're not allowed to lean against the side of the animal. But you're allowed to, if some article is hanging on the animal side, it's permissible to use that article. Now, what do we say if a person climbed the tree? You know you're not allowed to climb the tree, and he climbed the tree. What does he have to do? He has to stay there on the tree. Remember we saw that all
Yeah.
Right? And then we have reasons he can come off, whatever, he has to use the bathroom, whatever it is, we give him permission to come off. In such cases, he jumps off in one shot, but we talked about that. But let's say the guy gets on the animal. He's not going to go on the animal. So is the Gezerah to stay on the animal? If you're not allowed to climb the tree and you climb the tree to stay on the tree on Shabbat.
He has to come down.
Why?
Why? Because every minute the animal goes.
Mishum tsar ba'alei hayim. You're causing pain to the animal, you were saying. Right? You say it's painful to the animal, it's work for the animal. You're causing pain by sitting on the animal a longer time. So right away, even if he gets up on purpose, he has to come down right away.
It's not a tzar ba'alei hayim because לקח היא נוצרה. מה זה tzar ba'alei hayim?
Tsar l'chiyar mishum tsar ba'alei hayim. Even he went down on purpose. So he knew you're not going to go on the animal on Shabbat. We went on the animal on Shabbat anyway. We don't make him a knas and stay up there. Come down right away because you're giving tsar to the animal.
Shabbat it's tzar ba'alei hayim to go on top of the behema? לא, מסע זה משהו אחר. מסע זה...
Meaning, you're not allowed to go on it, right? You're not allowed to go on it.
Yeah, but
the reason why we keep you up there on the tree on Shabbat is the knas. You went up there, you're not allowed to stay there. But we're not going to knas you to stay on the animal if it's going to give pain to the animal. That's the idea.
I think because the more you stay on the behema, the more she's going. Every step she's doing, you over avera.
Okay.
That's
right.
תעזוב עמו. מה זה עזוב תעזוב עמו?
אם הוא לא רוצה לעזור, אתה לא חייב לעזור לו.
לא, אם אתה רואה, הוא עובד תחת מסעו.
No.
I don't know. Let's think about it logically. Let's think about this logically. I will tell you, think about it logically. An animal is an animal. Who wants something on his back, weighing him down so much? Even though he's a beast of burden, that's his job. We'll make him do things. Right? You should let them rest. What does that mean? Don't put stuff on them. Don't make them heavy. Don't put burden on them. Okay. Let's take a look now in the laws of Shabbat, Rabbi Nachson, and let's see some of the halachot that are related to what we just spoke about. So we're in the laws of Shabbat, volume 1, and we're looking on page 332. Okay, here we are, 332. Okay. Chachamim forbidden riding an animal on Shabbat since one might suddenly require a stick to prod the animal and come to break a branch from a tree. Okay, riding a horse is forbidden even in a place where there are no trees are accessible. We already saw this. The prohibition of riding an animal also extends to all significant uses, such as sitting on the animal without riding it. Right? The animal is just there and you want to sit on it. Can't do it on Shabbat. Leaning heavily against the place, and you can't do it. You're not allowed to place things on the animal. You're not allowed to place a saddle. You can't even put a bottle of water on the animal. Can't do any of that. But one may, however, remove an item that is on an animal, since by doing so, it's unlikely that one will come to lean on it. So you're allowed to remove an item that's on it. So if there's already a water bottle on it, you're allowed to take it off the animal. Okay. An attachment of the side of the animal is permitted to be used. So although one may not lean heavily on the sides of the animal, one may lean heavily onto anything which is attached to the sides of the animal. I don't know, you have some beam attached to the animal. You're allowed to lean on that beam. But no, you're not allowed. So why are you not allowed to sit in the carriage? The carriage is attached to the animal. The Ramah said you can't sit in the carriage.
No,
What?
because this is
No, the side of it is once it's run one off.
This is the way she makes her work.
Oh, so very good. So says the Ramah, and Bez the Mishnah Berurah explaining this Ramah. Mishnah Berurah says because sitting in a wagon, that's the derech of riding an animal. Some animals, the way you ride them is by sitting on a wagon. So he wants to ride. Sitting in a wagon, considered like riding the animal itself. It's not considered the tzad. It's considered riding it itself. Mishnah Berurah says. The tzad of the animal is the actual, from what I understand, the way they're bringing the halacha is the actual side of the animal. Anything that's attached to the animal, it's nothing. That's the way they're
Yeah, but
right. But he's saying that's the derech of riding the animal. That's why it's up. Although one who purposely climbs a tree on Shabbat must remain in the tree for the duration of Shabbat. If one purposely climbed an animal on Shabbat, he must come down. Since the animal has discomfort from the weight of the person, the Chachamim did not enact a knas that one must remain on the animal. So you come down right away, even if you went down on purpose. Okay, so that's where we get up to in the discussion of the beginning of using the animal. So let's do it over time. We did a lot. Let's turn to page. We have 3-4 minutes. Let's turn to page. By the way, I highly recommend you guys do this every time we have the shir. I myself try to do it. At the end of each shir, there is a beautiful summary of what we have learned. So let's turn to page 156. Very quickly, we're going to do a little hazara of everything we learned today because we saw a lot of different sources, a lot of different ideas. So let's start number one. We had in the Aseret Dibros, we had that it says one must not allow one's animal to perform melacha on Shabbat. Okay? The Mishnah said in Bava Kama that applies to any animal, domesticated, undomesticated, wild beast, or bird. We discussed the Gemara Masechet Shabbat. Is he hayav anything if he uses an animal to do work on Shabbat? And then we saw no hatat, no skila, no makot, nothing. Okay? The Rambam says it's not subject to any human punishment. And that's where we got in. Is it an asay or loy ta'aseh? Remember, we got into that whole discussion. And the ramification for a woman, she has to rest her animal if it's just an asay. To loy ta'aseh is she's chira just for kiddush and havdalah and not for every other asay. We looked into that. Then we have the mechilta that you shouldn't stop the animal from enjoying his own time. All right, if the animal wants to put something out of the ground for himself, you shouldn't stop him because then you're giving him tsar and you're not letting him rest. All right, but we did see that if he's carrying something on him and he's leaving, he's going to another reshut where he's not allowed to be walking with it, then you should stop him. Even though the Yisrael doesn't have it, no, you should stop him. We saw that from the Yalkut Yosef. Okay. The Gemara Masechet Avodah told us you have to let your animal rest on Shabbat. There was a rule I wanted to say this applies only to your own animal, and so working a guy's animal maybe is not an issue, but he saw Rabbeinu Ephraim that said it was. And the Ran says there are actually two separate categories. There's shvut of shvitat behemto, resting your animal, and then there's an issue of working a animal. So you have to let your animal rest, and you cannot work any animal. That's the way the Ran wanted to see it. The Mishnah Berurah also explained it that way. We talked about being careful where there's no Erev, and you have your dog or some pet that you have, you cannot put on it any burden, anything that's not for its protection if it's not closed. And how you're supposed to use the leash, right? Can protrude, can be sagging. You have to be using it in a way that's not considered carrying. And then we saw that it's also to ride on the animal on Shabbat, any way, any fashion, anywhere, any type of riding by anybody. And but there's no knas to stay on that animal, and even riding on a wagon attached to the animal will also be a problem. Okay,
question.
That's the hazara. Yes.
So loads of muksa apply to animals, domesticated.
We'll get into it. Yes, they could apply to animals, and we'll see where and when. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay. Adonai Hafetz Leman Tzidko Yigdid Torah V'Yadir.